The Spanish came to Texas, looked around, and left unimpressed. Farther south was a different story. They encountered the indigenous peoples of the Americas and liked what they saw. They wiped out the political authority of the Mexica and installed themselves as the head of this great empire. They called their new realm New Spain, with the land of Mexico as its crown jewels. Even so, this new part of the empire was a long way from Europe. The conquerors needed to establish additional authority. The new Spanish ruler was called the viceroy, literally the vice or assistant king. From Mexico, Spanish explorers wandered north. They wandered south. They learned a lot about the New World. Their next step was to harness all the energy and wealth of North and South America into something that would put money in the Spanish bank. That would be more complicated than they thought. The encounter between the Spanish and the Indians had some unintended consequences, including the introduction of new kinds of microbes to the indigenous populations. In fact, the microbes probably killed 9 out of 10 of the Indians. This pandemic was devastating. When 9 out of 10 people die, among the women, men, and children who perish or disappear are leaders, thinkers, and laborers, and parents of future generations. Germs and Spanish authority collapsed whole native societies. What would happen if that sort of event occurred in your community? Leadership at the city, county, and state level might be devastated. First responders, firemen, and the police would nearly disappear. Medical people, including doctors and nurses, would probably die in even greater numbers, and hospitals would be abandoned. What's left? Well, not much. So while the initial Spanish conquest was dramatic, the next 100 years of plagues and plague cycles set the stage for how the Spanish interacted with Texas. New Spanish-dominated political entities emerged in Mexico and elsewhere during this period of chaos. Old nations and old organizations collapsed, and people became refugees in their own land. This is a dark period in Texas history. We know who and what the Spanish encountered there in the mid-1500s. The region's reputation for hostility only grew after 3 treasure ships wrecked on the coast of Padre Island in 1554. Of the 300 or so survivors, only 1 made it back to Mexico alive. More than 50 years would pass before the Spanish returned to the region. That is nearly 3 generations. By then, everything had changed. During that time, amid the great dying time, the surviving Texas natives had to develop a new way of life. These survivors began to coalesce into the Indian nations that we best recognize from Texas history.